everyone. I'm Dr. Veronica Riera-Gilley of Prairie Fire Pharmacy Consulting, and I'm really excited that you're here today with me for day 6 of the Yogathon to benefit Mind Body Solutions, a wonderful nonprofit organization that is helping to transform trauma, loss, and disability. If you haven't done so, if you would please consider making a donation. I will include a link to my fundraising page when I post this video. So today's class, I was inspired by taking care of our feet. Our feet are the foundation of our body. And when our feet aren't happy, many other parts of our body are not happy. And it all starts in the feet. And it's amazing what kinds of changes that we can bring into the body and into the alignment of our body just by taking care of the feet. So we're going to start today's practice in mountain posture, where we're simply standing and bringing lots of awareness throughout the body and lining up our joints to give them the best alignment. Since we don't typically move throughout our day, always maintaining the best alignment, and throughout our lifetime, sometimes we develop bad habits or poor movement patterns that create pain and discomfort. And mountain posture can be a place to check in and help our bodies remember that ideal alignment before life and patterns set in. So taking a moment here, starting at the feet, making sure that the toes and the knees are tracking in the same direction, maybe even glance down at the feet. If you are standing on a mat, you might experiment with pressing the outside edges of your feet so that they're parallel to the outside edges of your mat. For many of us, that pushes our heels out just slightly, and this can help create some space in the low back. Bring the ears over the shoulders, shoulders over the hips. Feeling a softness in the knees. And take a moment to find a neutral alignment of your pelvis. And if you're not sure what neutral feels like, take a moment to let your pelvis tip forward. You're spilling out water over the edge of a bowl. And then tuck your tail down, rolling the bowl of your pelvis under. And notice what happens throughout your spine and in your knees as you move from having a tipped forward pelvis to a tucked under pelvis. And then take a moment to find neutral. So tucking and tilting, and then finding a place in the middle where you're neither tucked nor tilted. And notice the softness and springiness in the knees that you can find when you find neutral. And notice the natural lift and buoyancy that happens through the spine in that nice and neutral pelvis. And let's pick up our toes, spread the toes out wide, and now gently set them down. And perhaps give just a little extra pressure across the big toe to help lift through the arch. Just notice how those small changes can translate up through the whole body. Now we'll begin some gentle practices to help open up our feet, and then we'll observe the changes throughout our spine. If you have a block or a ball handy, we'll be using those today. And we're going to start by using a yoga block, putting it on the short side. And have a chair handy if you need it for balance. Ideally, we like to have the chair right in front of us, very close, so that we can touch it with our hands and we can maintain ears over the shoulders and shoulders over the hips, even when we're reaching for the chair. This makes it difficult to see my feet. I'm going to move it off to the side. But make sure that you use the chair if you need it for balance, because we get more work done when our bodies feel safe. By touching the chair, this tells our brain that the floor is closer than we think, and we are safe. And our bodies can relax into the pose and get more work done when it's not gripping and guarding and worrying about safety. So being encouraged that if your balance is challenged, if you feel very breezy and wobbly as we do this, it's okay. Just make sure that you have something to touch to bring that sense of safety so that we can still work on balance and not compromise our safety. We're going to be stepping up onto the block. So take your right foot and step up onto the block. And if it's available to you, pressing that right foot into the block, standing up, bringing that left foot off the ground, and then step back down. If you find that letting the left foot off the ground did not feel safe, it's okay. You can leave those left toes touching the ground. So pressing into the right foot, keeping those left toes on the ground, and come back down. Touching the chair if you need to for safety. We're going to do a couple more. Stepping up onto the block. And it doesn't matter if that left foot comes off the ground or not. You're certainly able to bring it up if you like, but it's not a requirement. We're doing whatever our bodies need today, and we're honoring wherever we're at. Let's take one more. Stepping off the block, taking just a moment now to come back into our mountain posture. And let's observe the difference from the right and the left side. What are the differences in the sensations that you have underneath the soles of your feet? Between the bones of your feet, the ankles, the calves, the knees, the thighs, the hips, the low back, middle back, upper back, head, neck, shoulders, elbows, and hands. Do you notice those subtle differences in the lift and the space that you have in the joints on your right versus the left side, since we did a little bit of grounding and opening in that right foot by stepping up onto the block? If you need to, move that block over to the other side. We're going to do the same thing with the left foot. So stepping up onto the block, pressing into the block, stepping up if we like. If it is safe for you to do so, you can pick those right toes up off the floor. And again, that is optional. It is absolutely okay for those right toes to stay on the ground, sending our brain that signal that the floor is closer than we think and we're safe. And use that chair, touch it for balance if you need to. So if the chair's in front of you, it would be right here. Take a few more. This will be our last one. Stepping off the block. Coming back to our mountain posture. And again, noticing all those subtle differences in the sensations in our body. And where do we feel the opening? Were we able to bring symmetry in our mountain posture since we've done the same movement on both sides? Scanning our body, paying attention to all the things that it has to say, and the places that are quiet in our body can offer us just as much information as the places in our body that have a lot to say. From here, we're going to do a little bit of work with the ball. So if you have a ball available, any ball will do. I prefer a racket ball, but I couldn't find one today, so we have a tennis ball. The squishier, the better. Very firm balls can tend to cause a little more discomfort, particularly on the more bony areas of our feet. So keep that in mind. If you're using a very firm or hard ball, use less pressure and be gentle, because no pain, no gain does not work in a yoga practice. If we experience pain, our body is asking us to do something different. So please listen to that. So now let's take the ball, placing it on the floor. And if you need to touch the chair for balance, please do that. And we're going to place our foot onto the ball. Right underneath the ball of the foot. And we're going to gently press into the ball and come off. Roll the ball over behind the next toe and press and release. Do the same thing all the way down behind each of the toes. So lift and press. Keep moving the ball across the foot until you get to the outside edge with the pinky toe. And now let's press and move the ball along the outside edge of the foot. And please use your chair. Touch the chair for balance if you need it. It's more important to feel safe as we're doing this balance work. And when the ball gets to your heel, try and stay in the frame here. Press down and lift up. Massaging underneath that heel. Do that a few times. And then roll the ball into the arch of the foot and press down a few times. And if you find any place that's particularly tender, move off of it and work the area around it. And then roll the ball back and forth a few times. And again, still touching the chair if we need it for balance. And let the hands be free unless you need them touching the chair for balance. I would avoid putting the hands on the hips. And can you scribble and make just a random pattern with the ball under your foot? And notice what's happening in your standing leg. If you need to put a slight bend in the knee, please do that. And now let's set the ball off to the side for a moment. Let's come back into our mountain posture. And let's notice the difference between the right and the left side. Noticing how that opening of the feet changes sensations all the way up the entire body. Now let's do the other foot. So starting with the ball at the ball of the foot behind the big toe, and we'll press down and lift up, moving behind the next toe, and moving at your own pace. Touching the chair if you need to for balance, and become aware of when you touch the chair. Are you gripping on the chair, or are you able to gently touch the chair for a reminder? And if you find yourself gripping, ask yourself, what can I do differently to make my body feel safe, or to help my body feel safe, and to find some ease in the effort of doing this balance work? So again, pressing the ball behind each of the toes, and then when you get to the pinky toe, then start to move the ball along the edge of the foot, lifting and pressing until you get the ball underneath the heel. And so here we'll step, gently pressing on the ball a few times. And then roll the ball into the arch of the foot. And then can you make a random scribble pattern? Being mindful and aware of our balance, touch the chair if we need to. And make sure that we keep the chair very close to us, that we're not having to reach and compromise mountain alignment. We still want our ears and shoulders lined up over the hips here. And when you've done plenty of fun random scribbling there, we'll take a moment. And again, we'll find mountain posture. And again, just becoming aware of that ease and that lightness that we're beginning to feel throughout the body as we open up and stretch those feet. And now let's come down to our chairs. Being seated in mountain posture. And we're going to take the right leg, bringing it into the lap if it's available. And if your body says, no, thank you, I don't want to have my foot all the way in the lap, you can always use a block or a bolster to set the foot up on until you're ready to put the foot in the lap. And it's absolutely okay if the foot never gets to the lap. We're all built differently, and we meet our bodies where we're at. If it's available to have the foot in the lap, we're going to shake hands with the feet. And if it's not available to bring the foot all the way into the lap, perhaps you could ask someone at home if they could shake hands with your feet for you, so that you could still get this benefit if you are not the one able to shake hands with the feet. And this is a great way to undo wearing shoes. Many of our shoes have a very narrow toe box and squish and cram our toes. And this is just a great way to help undo shoe wearing, bring some of that freedom and natural movement back into the toes. You may find, if you're new to this practice of shaking hands with your feet, that it might be really tight and uncomfortable to put the whole length of the finger through the toes. So perhaps you just start with the first knuckle of the finger between the toes and do one at a time. And very gradually work your way up to being able to slide the entire length of the fingers between the toes and give the foot a really nice shake. We'll take one more big breath or yawn here. And we're gonna release the hand, unfold the foot, and scoot back in the chair, plant the feet, use the strength of the legs, stand up. Now we're gonna stand in mountain posture here. We're gonna take just a moment to notice the difference between the right and the left side. Again, noticing those subtle changes that translate all the way up the body. Without moving your feet, since we just stood up and we know that the chair is a safe distance away, we're going to move through chair pose as we move back to the chair. Using your exhale, bend at the knee and send your bottom way far back. Keep those knees behind the toes and hover as low as you comfortably can. Keep the heart lifted and hover low. Maybe reach back, touching the chair so you know where it is. And very gently with control, setting down in the chair. And let's cross the left leg into the lap, taking any variation that's available to you. So you could start out with the outside edge of the left foot on the floor. You could raise the foot up onto some blocks or a bolster, or you could have the foot all the way in the lap. And being mindful of the standing leg to keep it in mountain alignment with the toes and the knees tracking in the same direction. So we're going to take several breaths here. And again, we're going to shake hands with the feet. And notice if one side is tighter than the other as you were trying to shake hands with the feet. Just noticing those subtle differences between each side of the body. Being mindful to sit up nice and tall. Sometimes it's tempting to slouch down in this posture and roll the pelvis under, and we miss out on some of the good stretch that's happening in our seat when we slouch down. So being mindful, sitting up nice and tall and finding mountain alignment, ears over the shoulders and shoulders over the hips. Let's take a few more breaths here. So we really stretch out those toes. And when you're ready, Unfold, unwind. Scooting back in your chair, making sure that you have really good contact with your seat. And press the feet down. Feel very well connected to the floor. And with your exhale, stand up using the strength of your legs. And then take mountain posture here. And again, notice the difference between the right and the left side. Just notice how that stretching out and the relief in the feet translates all the way up the body. From here, we're going to work on a little bit of balance work. So I would ask for you to have your chair in front of you, nice and close, so that ears can remain over the shoulders and shoulders over the hips while you reach for the chair. It feels effortless. We can touch the chair, telling our brains the floor is closer than we think. I'm going to move the chair so you can see my feet, but please be safe at home, take good care of yourself, and use the balance assistance. We're going to start out in mountain posture. Taking a moment to find that best alignment in all the joints. Pressing the outer edges of the feet so that they're parallel to the outer edges of the mat. Taking the toes and the knees in the same direction. Feet are about hips distance apart, which is roughly 2 fists width because our hips are not as wide as they look in a mirror. Bring the ears over the shoulders, shoulders over the hips, and find that neutral alignment of the pelvis so that you have a softness and a springiness in the knees. And when you're ready, we're going to begin to shift the weight into the left foot. And we're going to pick up the right heel, touching the chair if we need to. And for some of us, this will feel very breezy, and this might be as far as we need to go. But if this feels nice and steady, let's stretch the right toes back behind us a few inches, touching the chair if we need to for balance. And some of us are going to stay here. This might feel very breezy, a little bit wobbly, and that's okay. We're going to breathe and stay here. Or if this feels steady and we're ready to move on, to add a little bit more challenge to our balance, maybe we stretch out with the left hand, keeping the right hand touching the chair. So take a moment and notice how this feels. Does this feel nice and steady? If it's available and it feels safe, maybe you take the right hand and you stretch back behind you. So this is a modified dancer's posture. We're going to take 3 big breaths in whatever variation you feel the safest in. And when you're ready, bring the hands to touch the chair if you need it. Bring that foot back in. And then take a moment, find mountain posture. Noticing the difference between the right and the left side, since we were really grounding down in our left leg and balancing with the right. What are the different sensations that are coming up inside of our body? And when you're ready, let's shift now into the right leg, pick up the left heel, and touch the chair if we need to. Taking just a moment to notice, does this feel breezy and very challenging? If so, then we're going to stay here. If you feel very steady and grounded, then stretch back with those left toes and touch somewhere behind you. And take a moment and notice, is this where you're going to stay? Or would you like to stretch out now with the right arm in front of you? And again, listening and noticing, and it's absolutely okay to stay here. Or maybe this felt safe initially, but it's feeling wobbly and we want to come back and touch the chair. Listening into the body. And for the last modification, if it's safe, stretch the hand back behind you, the left hand. And let's take 3 big breaths in whatever version of our dancer's posture we chose. And when you're ready, bringing both hands back to the chair, bringing that left foot in to meet the right. Let's walk it out just a little bit. Maybe roll the ankles if we need. And let's come back to a mountain posture. Notice where you naturally landed in your mountain posture. And then, did there need to be any little adjustments? And notice the differences in how this posture feels now that we've done a lot of work to open our feet, to really connect them to the earth. Are there any places that feel lighter and airier, bouncier? We'll close our practice with a small relaxation. So take a moment to find yourself in a comfortable position, whether that's lying down on the floor, seated in a chair, or perhaps even seated on a bolster. So wherever you would like to finish out your practice today, take a few moments to set yourself up in comfort. And just begin to tune in. Noticing the subtle changes in the body. Just noticing the effect of our practice. Even though we're doing no work here in our final resting posture, this is the most important part of our yoga practice. The spinal relaxation helps us to integrate the new patterns and the new movements we're teaching our body. This intentional rest and stillness nourishes our entire nervous system in a way that sleep does not. As we sleep, our nervous system is still working. We're tossing and turning, moving covers and pillows, perhaps elbowing a spouse or child. There's a lot going on when we sleep. But when we choose to sit still, and to listen to the body, and to use the breath to wash over us, it's wonderful nourishment. If you have thoughts, let them come and then let them go. Use your exhale. Send those thoughts off into the breeze. You have nowhere to go, nowhere to be, but right here, taking good care of yourself. As you're ready to come back from your relaxation, begin to make small movements in the hands and the feet. Wiggling the toes, wiggling the fingers, taking small movements, and let the eyes be the last thing to open. If you're lying down on the ground, roll over onto one side, taking just a moment to pause on your side. Let's offer our bodies some gratitude for the work that they did today. And if you're on the floor, using your top hand, slowly pressing up to seated. when you're ready, opening the eyes, bringing the awareness back into the room. Thank you all so much for joining me today. Your health is your greatest wealth, and I'm honored that you would invest in that with me today. Let's inhale up, and together we say namaste.